Hello and welcome to my studio. We are working on making marks using hatching, cross-hatching, and stippling. I've done a demonstration and I would like to do some here on a bigger paper so that everyone can see. You can use HB pencils, you can use B pencils. For me today, I'm going to use charcoal just for the sake of time. You will want to make 9 squares just for practice. It doesn't have to be on perfect paper. You can do newsprint. But we're gonna do 9 squares just for the sake of time. I want to make it big enough so that you can see. Why don't I make it a little bit darker so that you can see? Oh, that's fine. Charcoal. Let's try this. All right, that's what I'm talking about. Let's make it darker so you can see. If my squares are not perfect, please forgive me. I'm using charcoal just for the sake of this video, but you can use drawing pencils on a smaller piece of paper. And this is just a practice assignment, just a practice. It does not have to be perfect. We're going to be making marks to create value, using lines for our hatching and cross-hatching to create value, and using dots for stippling or pointillism to create value. So this is just a practice activity to work on using marks and lines to make value instead of shading, which we will get to when we talk about value. So you've got 9 squares on a piece of paper. We want to talk about hatching, which is lines parallel, cross hatching. I'm running out of charcoal here. And stippling or pointillism. Let's put pointillism down here. All right, so for hatching, you're just basically going to make parallel lines. I'm going to go diagonal just for my angle where I'm sitting. You can do horizontal and vertical if you wish. So the first box needs to be light. You want your lines spaced apart, not close together. They should not cross. For them, this one needs to be light. This one needs to be medium. And this one needs to be dark. So you want your lines closer together on the medium. Fill in some of those white spaces, stand away from it. I'm looking at my reflection in the screen. You don't want to go too dark. And then your dark ones, you're going to put those lines really close together. Still one direction. Hatching is all in one direction. Now, if you were actually doing a drawing, you would be a little bit more controlled than this. I'm just practicing making the marks to get the value. Let's see, let's make that a little darker. So basically you're worrying about filling in these little white spaces, I guess. And you're not shading. We're not shading here. We're just making marks. We're using lines to create value. So this should be light, medium, dark. Now cross-hatching, you're making marks same way, but you're going to cross them. So they might need to be further spaced together because you're going to do perpendicular lines. And when you cross them, that's going to fill in some of those white spaces. So the light one, I want to keep them farther apart. This light should be like that. Medium, just a little close together. But remember, I'm going to cross hatch. Maybe I could have maybe 1 or 2 lines more. Not too much, because you don't want your medium to be light and you don't want your medium to be dark. And then for the darks, you're going to come in here really fast for the sake of time. Make them closer together. I haven't done any shading. I'm just making lines closer together to make it darker and further apart to make it lighter. Okay, so that one needs a little bit more help. You want to fill in those spaces there. But you notice I didn't make the box completely black. I didn't fill it all the way in. So this dark should be about like that dark. Now for stippling, I'm going to use maybe the side of my little piece of charcoal here, because making dots with charcoal is maybe kind of hard. So I'm just going to make like little, for stippling, you might want to use pen and ink. So I'm making little dots. I was using this example earlier for my scientists. Think of these as gas, liquid, and solid. So for my science people, the atoms in the gas are spaced far apart and they move quickly. Okay, so think about this as being a gas. Think of these little dots for pointillism as being a gas. You want it to be light, but not too light. That light should look like that. Okay, so for medium, you're going to make a bunch of dots closer together. It's hard to make dots with charcoal. Not hard, but I'm trying to do it dark enough, and this is a soft piece so that you can see what I'm doing. They're more like little, if you want to use pen and ink, like a Sharpie for the medium, for the pointillism, you can. And maybe a little bit more. And then this one takes a little bit longer. So be patient. And for the dark, you got to make them. This is like the gas, the liquid, the atoms are closer together for the liquid, and then the solid, you know, the atoms are densely packed together. So for my science people, if that analogy helps you, fine. So you're putting your atoms densely packed together for the stippling to make it look darker. So the closer the dots, the darker it is. So on your practice, your light should be light, your medium should be medium, and your dark should be dark. They should not all look the same. If they all look the same, stand back and figure out what's too dark, what's too light. You can it's easier to make something darker than it is to make something lighter. So that's why we start with the light and go to the dark. And I'm going to do a few more here, and then we're going to stop for today. So try to fill in all those spaces, but leave a little bit of white so that you can see that it's stippled. And by the time you finish with this box should be as dark as these boxes. And this is just a practice activity to get you used to making marks to get your value instead of shading, if you want to do it like that. Some people use shading, some people don't. Okay, so that's going to be our demonstration on hatching, cross-hatching, and stippling in order to create value without shading. You're using your marks to create value.